Hello, I would like to present you with some clues. These are 5 names: Mike Susky, Tomato, Michael Vout, Matthew Wilson, and Peter Roberts. What is the solution to this puzzle? Why, elementary. These are people that we're thanking because they've gone to patreon.com/Duckfeed.tv and kicked us some money and helped make this show and all of the other shows on the network possible. Once again, that is patreon.com/Duckfeed.tv. Thank you.
My name is Gary Butterfield.
My name is Cole Ross.
And you're listening to Watch Out for Fireballs. It is a Games Club podcast.
And this week we are talking about Professor Layton and the Curious Village, which is a puzzle adventure game developed by Level 5 and published by Nintendo for the DS in 2007.
Yeah. And this episode was executive produced by William. Thank you, William.
Thank you, William.
We've been meaning to do one of these for a while.
Yeah.
In part just to kind of see if we could do it.
Yeah, it was a pretty big franchise on the original DS.
Yeah, continues to this day.
Yeah, part of the
There's an Apple Arcade entry, and
oh yeah, there's that Apple Arcade entry. I kind of fell off of it. I fell off of keeping track of it after they left the original DS, as it were. Yeah. They got into like prequels and stuff.
Yeah, it gets a little lore heavy. This Brain Age sequel, spiritual successor, gets a little lore heavy. So this is, if you don't know the concept, which maybe you don't, these haven't been as in the limelight for a while.
No.
You kind of play as both of them.
You do.
You play as the duology, the dramaturgical dyad of Herschel Layton, who is a professor of archaeology, but is also a detective. He says he's not, but he is. Who loves puzzles.
He very quickly jumps onto murder cases.
And then his not son.
Yes.
His nerd. His slave. I don't know his property. I don't know what relationship.
It's his Riddle's son. I think I've seen Layton, this young boy, described as his protege.
Kinda. It's I don't know what either party gets on any of this.
He also carries a lot of the luggage.
He does carry it. And there are things I will say in this video game. There are more things that Layton says to me that if it were in real life, I'd start a fight with him than almost any video game. Like if you're just walking along and someone's like, this steam vent reminds me of a puzzle. Why don't you take a crack at it? And then when you get the answer wrong, if they said to you, try again, few little me points you get, you would punch him and no court would convict you.
Yeah.
You'd lay that motherfucker out.
A lot of things are very strange about Professor Layton, just as a character, as kind of a Nyarlathotep kind of figure in all of this. It's especially pronounced in the Professor Layton versus Phoenix Wright game, which is actually really good. But it draws a lot of attention to just how strange A, Layton's personality is, and B, how strange his visual design is. That game is like it's an intersection of like 5 or 6 different art styles, right? And when you get Layton up against anybody else, including like next to Luke, he looks kind of like a gray a little bit.
Yeah, he does have really he has like Odo.
Yeah.
from Deep Space Nine a little bit, and you have to pour him back and forth between different vials when he's sleeping to split him evenly between two vials of Odo. Yeah, it's real weird. This group of weirdos visits this isolated town of Saint Mystere to investigate a mystery surrounding the death of the town's baron. Which quickly starts off as a quest, inheritance quest for this golden apple, this treasure, and ends up being a murder.
Yes.
Thing.
Of course. You end up trapped in the village for the duration of the game, and you are at the whims of the townspeople and their just lust, their absolute obsession with testing your mettle, with testing your ability to think around corners, with testing your ability to pour Professor Layton between vials to split him evenly.
There is a diegetic explanation for this, but it's one of those things where I find that subtractive because there's not in any of the other games.
Yep.
Like, how many villages full of puzzle robot tests are you gonna, like, every single time the problem becomes you know?
Yeah.
Yeah. Them adding an explanation for it in this one, I think, is maybe a mistake in the series.
I think so. Yes.
Has some implications. So you pop around this town, talking to villagers and clicking on objects. And there is a story you're advancing, but they're also stuck in these villagers and stuck in these objects are puzzles.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes these make sense, like you had to find a cat and your puzzle will have a metaphor about finding a cat.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes it's just like, this reminds me of a puzzle about, horrible dinner party where brothers didn't like each other.
Yeah.
Let me tell you this really boring story about it. It really kind of depends. But this is the bulk of the game.
Yes.
There's the idea. There's 120 puzzles in the main game. There are several different types of puzzles. So they do repeat concepts, but there's a pretty big variety. Even though it's still also kind of not quite enough.
Yeah, you do end up seeing
weirdly.
a lot of just kind of like rebadges of the same one of us is telling the truth and the rest are lying kind of puzzle,
Yeah.
Yeah.
The number of logic grids, and it just kind of like, this finds your weakness.
Yeah.
We'll talk about the types more than anything.
Mm-hmm.
This is not going to be a walkthrough episode.
No. Just like weirdly, this is not the only game that we've done of this type. The activity book genre.
Mm-hmm.
It's the third one we've done. We did the Seventh Guest and the 11th Hour. I like this a lot better than that, though. Although that one does have its charms. Yeah.
It's time. I'm glad you tied that into it, because I was when we were doing the wrap up and talking about the development, it was I was amazed like the Seventh Guest wasn't name checked at all.
Yeah,
because this has the most in common with the Seventh Guest.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Just with the story and the environment being kind of this loose, just a connective tissue, kind of congealing the puzzles together. You're going through here, and 120 is a lot. And while they do a pretty good job of ranging in type, the difficulty I think gets more complex in an interesting way up to about the midway point of the game. After that, you start getting into kind of the only meaningful axis of challenge being to make the puzzle more tedious. It feels like
this is something that I am starting to realize might just be a thing about my relationship with puzzle games.
Yeah,
because most puzzle games we've done, I get to that point where I'm like, this just feels exhausting to me. Baba Is You is great for the first half.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, I just look at these big complicated screens and think, this is going to be so many steps. I don't feel like keeping track of this.
It's like,
it happened with me with The Witness.
Yep.
I just like, boy, like, yeah, you just adding rules on, I know it becomes, it starts reminding me of doing algebra.
Right.
Where like they're just steps and you just have to lay them all out. And I don't take any satisfaction in that. Like, memorization, I think, is the weakest of the intelligences.
Yeah.
And that's what that feels like it is.
A little bit. Yeah. Algebra, I think, is a good is a good comparison, actually. Not just because some of these just involve straight up you would solve them by doing an algebra equation. I tend to like those ones, but like eventually the puzzles end up feeling less about kind of arriving at an insight or making an intuitive leap or, thinking past an obvious trap that is there. And it kind of feels like exercises a little bit. To the point where it's like, this remains interesting to me as long as I am figuring out how to solve it. I'm like setting up the little routine. I'm setting up the logic loop that I would iterate through to like get through this, right? But when it comes to actually going in and being on the ground, right, and walking through each and every one of those steps, that's when it starts to lose me. It's like, I know how to do this. Like I know roughly how I would get this ball out of this sliding puzzle. I don't actually feel an appreciable amount of challenger that I'm being tested especially well by going in and actually inputting this or iterating through it like by hand. Right.
It's just the I get it button.
Yeah,
but for puzzles.
Mm-hmm.
And I ended up finding that solution a lot. It also ends up being with the back half of the game, relying a lot harder on puzzles that were a series of steps as opposed to an intuitive leap or a trap.
Right.
And traps of language and intuitive leaps are why I like puzzles.
Yes.
The patience part, like the moving the block out or the going through the math steps that's not interesting to me.
Yeah.
It's just like, well, there's the X, there's the number we know. Like, it just feels very obvious to me. And it's like, it's different than, it doesn't feel clever.
Mm-hmm.
It's like the difference between feeling kind of clever because of something that feels like a bespoke solution versus something that feels like a teacher's patting me on the head.
Yeah.
And there's like one of those that I like a lot and one that I like less.
Mm-hmm.
One of them scales a lot easier. So when they want to make it difficult, they can do this sliding block puzzle can be solved in as few as 75 moves if you're canny, but most players take 200.
Right.
And that is a patience test.
Yes.
It's a tribute to the game how long it avoids that.
Mm-hmm.
Like for a game of this structure, this is a short, or rather reverse. This is a long game for a game with this kind of structure.
Yeah, about like 10
kind of
10 hours or so. Yeah.
So 5 hours of it hitting that balance really well is really good.
Mm-hmm.
It's just I found that my clever cues, like that good feels I was getting from solving puzzles, dry up in the last couple chapters pretty hard.
Mm-hmm.
Even when it's not because they're hard to solve, it's because they're not about making the same kind of intuitive leaps that I want to make.
Yes. Yeah. Like what remains pretty good is the presentation of the puzzles, actually. Like, and I'm not just talking like visually, like it's always pretty clearly done with nice illustrations or whatever. But like, I like how after you solve a puzzle, 99 times out of 100, the game will actually just like walk through the reasoning to reaching the solution. Just in case you either guessed or in case you used brute force to get it. And oftentimes, because these puzzles repeat so much, or at least certain kinds of them do, that does equip you to be a little bit better, in a better position to approach that puzzle the next time it pops up.
Yeah. Yeah. There are a lot of kindnesses in that way.
Yeah.
Right. So like it gives you the, if you fail, sometimes you get the hint. Nothing is timed. You can take as many tries as you like. Mm-hmm. There's a fun bucks in this game called Pick-a-Rats. And I assume these are hard candies that Layton gives to Luke.
It's his only sustenance.
Yeah, that was my guess. These are like food pellets.
Yeah.
They could literally just be hamster food pellets. I can't imagine Layton making 2 stops at the store. But this acts as your score and a gate. Mm-hmm. So you have to have a certain, or rather, I'm sorry, a gate for certain special like things like concept art and shit like that.
Yeah.
Total puzzle. But even if you, so when you get an incorrect solution, you reduce the amount of pick-a-rats you get until the third time, and then it bottoms out.
Yes.
And this is something, I know not everybody plays games this way. I do not. I think that giving a shit about pick-a-rats is silly to me.
Yeah.
I just play through the game. There are 3 levels of hints. Mm-hmm. You spend this hint coin economy. These are found through kind of pixel hunting when you're navigating. Use hints.
Yes.
I ended up with tons of extra hint coins in this. Mm-hmm. I don't feel bad about getting hints.
No.
Like I understand the people probably try to perfect stealth this game, puzzle perfect stealth it, and I do not get that necessarily.
Yeah, there's nothing to be gained by me getting frustrated by by one particular kind of ambiguity and making the first step. Right. I had so many hint coins by the end of this.
And the hints don't give away too much.
No.
Either. Like they're pretty thoughtfully designed hints in escalating levels. So just getting the first one to kind of set you on the right path doesn't give away the game.
Mm-hmm.
In general, like a lot of times that will just put you, especially in one that is kind of a math or a logic grid type of puzzle, just kind of say, this is the relevant piece of information.
Yeah.
Signaling to you what type of puzzle it is.
Saying like, hey, here's the frame, because so many of these puzzles end up being, regardless of the type, you fall into the mindset, if not of the puzzle designer, of at least, the mindset that they want you to be. And you start seeing things the way that they need you to see them in order to get through this kind of quickly. And those hints are very good at setting up the frame. So you're seeing it right.
Yeah. They also do a thing that's really nice is that you can't lose a puzzle.
Right.
They round them all up. Mm-hmm. So you can do them all. You can quit up on a puzzle if you're having a hard time. There are a couple of gates, like a couple of places in the world where I'll say you have to have solved this many puzzles total to get through. I found that also pretty generous.
Yeah.
It's always sailing, 10 to 20 above the required number.
I think the final one, like to get into the big, obviously final dungeon or whatever, is only 75, which I got to it with about 100 by that point in the game.
Yep.
Yeah. You get a couple of rewards through this, not just progress. Sometimes these do stand in the way, but you also get doodads. You get pieces of a strange gizmo. And you take these, and these will assemble into a robot dog that will hunt down the hint coins for you, and is also kind of a weird spoiler about the nature of this village.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. The fact that I thought you were going to segue into the furniture decorating mini game.
No.
What is that? Like, the weirdest. It's presented as a puzzle, so you get a piece of furniture, right? And it's like blue credenza. And then it says, like, you have to decide, which room it should go into as these two men who decide to redecorate their hotel.
Yeah.
You put it in there, and then you just get a little message thing, and Luke will be like, blue, ew, my least favorite color of credenza. And then you know to stick it in Layton's house. Yep. And that's it.
Yeah.
It's,
I'm just imagining the innkeeper watching these two strange people, obvious aliens,
go in. This man and his human property going antiquing every day, and just in this not to be gross about it, but it is real weird. Like, it's real weird.
Yeah, so we're just going to. Can we blow this wall out? I've got a pretty big armoire to hoist in.
Yeah. How long do you plan to be here, Professor?
Are you living in this hotel like Royal Tenenbaum? Like, what's the deal, dude?
Even he didn't pack it with so much stuff. Yeah. It's also a weird thing that the villagers do too. Yeah, where they just like give you their, here's my footstool. Thanks for rearranging these matchsticks for me. I'm sorry.
All that I have is this lamp. Can you make change for a lamp? Oh, okay, just keep the whole thing.
How many pick rats per a lamp?
You also get pieces of a painting that you can assemble into a jigsaw puzzle. You do not have to concern yourself or care about these.
No. I didn't. Any of the pause menu mini games I did not. Fuck with. I built the robot dog.
Yeah.
But other than that, I did not fuck with these things. This game has a real unique look. To it. It reminds me of the Triplets of Belleville, that Oscar animated movie.
I do not know what that is.
It's like a French animated movie that was like one of the first like big non-Japanese animation things, non-Coraline, non-Japanese animation.
Yeah,
bits to get a lot of attention. Non-Pixar.
Oh yeah, definitely. I can absolutely see the comparison, especially in the colors. Like the warmth of those colors, and some of the character designs are really good. Wow, that almost feels actionable.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
It's very similar to that.
Yeah.
But they're good. Like everyone is a cartoon. It's a village full of fucked up little guys, like weird guys with nightmare faces and like horrible proportions.
Yep,
who live nightmare lives. But they're really appealing. Like they're cute and sometimes a little off-putting. In a way that feels like mildly transgressive almost. Like it's not Disney. It's not pure cutesy.
You know, I like when this came out and I saw this and I played it, I was like, oh, this must be like a licensed game based on something. Like, oh, there's all kinds of Tintins and asterisks and obelisks coming out of Belgium or whatever. You know, maybe I haven't heard about this. It is so strongly expressed that it almost feels like it couldn't have began as like its own little one-off game. Like as the beginning of a franchise, this is quite strange in how well it's put together, at least from a visual and sound identity perspective.
Would also had the fast follow in the form of the very underrated game Puzzle Agent.
Oh yeah,
which is from a specific artist. Mm-hmm. You know, so that was another reason why I kind of thought these were both just different artists, kind of deep impact Armageddoning each other. Mm-hmm. You know? Yeah, even though that was a fast follow to this.
That was Telltale, right?
Yes,
gotcha.
Yeah, those games are cool. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and they draw a little bit more attention to the weirdness. Like Layton isn't very credulous and just accepts all this stuff as fine. Basically, the Puzzle Agent Twin Peaks, like you're in a Twin Peaks town and
they're doing like a bad Northern Exposure / Fargo kind of deal, right?
Yeah. This game is kind of cute in the story and how it presents the story. Yeah. I did get pretty bored by it because it's very kiddie.
Yes.
You know, the characters are well sketched. Like there's a little bit of joy. Like Luke will get real pissed. Right?
Yeah, I love how angry he gets.
Yeah. Angry Luke should have been the angry Luigi.
Yep.
You know, that came like a decade later because it's real good. Like just like fury, you know, because he's trained to fight in like a cockfight, but for kids, boys.
It's like a Pokemon.
That Layton does. Yeah. Because it's Layton's Pokemon. He sleeps in a ball. But there's like cuteness to that. Mm-hmm. But the actual like jokes in this are all pretty groany, if anything. And there's a lot of characters slowly expositing.
Yes.
This stuff.
Yeah, it's almost like Layton himself, particularly the way that he speaks. It's almost, you know, he's got a condescension. You know, because in a Sherlock like way, he's always 5 steps ahead of you. But it feels like he is explicitly trying to lull you into a sense of being like comfortable with him so that he can strike. He'll unhinge his jaw and swallow you fucking whole as he talks about the duties of a gentleman.
The duties of a gentleman stuff is real weird in this. But yeah, he is kind of
he's assumed a form that we're comfortable with.
Yeah, it's assumed a form we're all very comfortable with. The human tube, the dancing inflatable guy tube, but as a person.
Hey, we'll make somebody buy a car.
Yeah, this is created by Akihiro Hino, and he loved this series of puzzle books called Head Gymnastics.
I love that.
That's very funny, and I love old timey puzzle books like this.
Yeah,
like you get ones now, and I always feel like they're, you know, even if they're not advertised as such, they're mostly Sudokus.
Yes.
Old variety puzzle books are great.
Mm-hmm. Did you ever have, back when I was a kid, Chris had these and I ended up just kind of like reading them secondhand, but just like books of lateral thinking puzzles.
Yeah.
Love those things.
Yeah, man. Yeah, those are really good. Well, the lateral thinking puzzles are amazing because they're either like incredible
or they're just tricks.
Yeah, they're horrible tricks where it's just like it depends on whether it's like question first or answer first. You know, if it's answer first, it's a riddle. Like there's an answer and you can guess it. Mm-hmm. If it's question first, it sounds like somebody came up with a prompt and then somebody used that as a creative writing exercise.
Yeah,
to come up with the most complicated thing that could make that true.
And then it gets down to like, oh, nobody said this was on Earth, stupid.
Yeah, that stuff drives me fucking nuts.
Why did you assume gravity would work that way, you clod?
I've done that when you go to Barnes and Noble and there's that horrible graveyard of like books they buy by the pound. And I was like, ooh, lateral thinking puzzles. And every time I picked them up thinking, hoping it was going to be the ones for my youth, I pick it up and it's that shit.
Yeah.
There's a non-Newtonian physics wormhole opened up.
Okay.
Yeah, okay. The other version of these that were really cool were You Be the Judge books.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Where it's like this guy says he's allergic to tomatoes, but his sandwich had ketchup on it.
The
game's afoot. Motherfucker.
Just like, wait a minute. So they both drank the same drink, but one was poison and the other wasn't? Well, wait a minute. One of them drank faster. Haha, it was in the ice cubes. Yeah, just like that kind of shit.
Yes, go to hell. Yeah, I win, book.
I lower my flaming sword on you like an archangel.
Yeah, toilet town for you. Yeah, those were great, and this was head gymnastics. I would also have gone apeshit for.
Yeah. But these were made by a psychologist named Akira Tago. He did them for like 40 years or something like that, up until he died in 2016. Started in 1966, kind of putting these out. And Tago actually ended up overseeing the development of the first game. Like we've solved some of his puzzles in this because it incorporates puzzles from those books, modified obviously to use the touchscreen.
Well, it was originally the idea was to make it an official head gymnastics game. There's a Beta 64 video about this, about the beta assets from the version of this that did not have a story really, and was just going to be a straight adaptation of head gymnastics. And they ended up having this kind of compromise. That's when they added a story to it.
Yes.
Initially, this game was not going to have plot or characters, which is wild because, like, that's the thing you associate with it. I think that a large portion of its success, was that. But yeah, they ended up adding that as kind of just like a wrapper for stuff when they could not get the official license for head gymnastics.
Yeah. And then also like playing up and playing down the story and character aspect of it in different regions as well.
Yeah.
So like the European box art was like, hey, this is like Brain Age or whatever. You just have Layton down there in the corner waving at you. Whereas over here, we have like a very beautifully illustrated, cover showing a scene from the town. Right.
Well, and the Japanese version of it, the back cover was positioned like Japanese magazines, where they had interview quotes from the voice actors. It was actually advertised with its voice acting cast, like a movie would be. Yeah, because it was heavily marketed towards women. Yeah. So,
just interesting.
Obviously, Layton is inspired by Sherlock Holmes. Sherlock Holmes also owns another person. And the slave owning Sherlock Holmes and Layton. The idea is this archetype of an English gentleman.
Yes.
Here. And he's nicer than Sherlock Holmes. There's a darkness, obviously, to Layton. Yeah. The best Sherlock Holmes, he's actually just like a drug-addled prick.
Oh yeah, no, he's just a monster. He slumps into crime scenes like a Shoggoth. Makes Columbo look like a senator.
No one would talk to him. Like he'd be the worst friend.
Yeah.
Like Sherlock Holmes shows up at a party, it's an emergency. Like it's like the cops showing up. Like you got to go.
Yeah, we need to like construct a series of barriers that will lead him back out to the street.
We send him out to fake prom. Solve some clues, buddy. Like, leave some fingerprints around fake prom and then decoy prom, and then so Sherlock doesn't come.
Oh man. So this sold and reviewed well and kind of became this tentpole for the DS. It was part of this, second-ish wave of games on the DS. I associate it with the system moving beyond having really gimmicky touchscreen and starting to actually design games that thoughtfully used it,
Yeah.
And that I think mostly happened after the DS Lite came out, kind of around this 2006, 2007 time.
And the third wave of casual DS games. And I don't say that as a pejorative. I'm not like an idiot, but the Nintendogs, Brain Age. Yeah. Like DS was positioned as a kind of an everyman's handheld.
Yeah. And this is kind of a crossover thing, right? You get your adventure gamers, who are into point and clicks, and you get your, brain teaser folks.
Yeah. Yeah. A lot of these games are on mobile. I played the HD version on my iPad. It's great.
Yeah. Works very well.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a great way to play it. And there are a bunch of these on your phone, either through Apple Arcade or normally, and that's a great way to play them. I'd recommend it. Yeah. And we're kind of complaining about this. I like this game. It's the end of it does get tedious. Yeah. And, it's longer than it needs to be, but then the end is also when the plot gets funny. So it's kind of a mixed bag.
Yeah.
But the Layton games are good. Like these are cool. I like brain teasers. It's just this weird thing where I don't know if this was your experience. There were just ones I gravitated towards and ones that were a chore.
I think that's going to be the case for everybody.
Yeah, like find your weakness, right? Like people like different kinds of puzzles, and this tries to cater to to everybody.
Yeah, so you're by necessity, maybe about like 20% of these are going to be things that you absolutely love, and 20% are just going to be those liquid pouring puzzles, right?
Yeah, I like the liquid pouring puzzles.
You do? Oh my god, I hate those damn things.
No, those ones are good to me.
Oh, okay.
The other thing too, and this is like one of my axioms of puzzle and adventure games, is playing them as an adult with confidence is great, because if you get something and it's like, this fucking sucks, just skip it.
Yeah.
These have binary answers. It's not like, you can't just skip Orphan of Kos.
Right.
But you can just skip any of these fucking chess puzzles if you want to. Like, just look it up.
You can go look up clues. I went searching for clues in an unorthodox place. Game facts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Final note too, before we get out of generalities, is this was supported with DLC.
Yes.
Which were puzzles of the week that you picked up. And I think it's a really clever way to do it. Like once a week for a long time, you would just get a new puzzle. And a bunch of those are pretty good. Like they experimented in those. They're not, part of the base game. We're not covering them because we're not covering individual puzzles on this, but they are neat.
Yeah.
So if you end up getting this, you can play those still now. Those are available. I think there's a website.
Okay.
Where you get them. Where did I see that? I was talking about it with somebody on the Slack and they mentioned it. Pretty sure there's a way to still get them now.
Yeah.
And I fucked around with a couple of them and they're neat.
Nice. Yeah. I know that they had a Flash implementation of like a demo for a while, but then Flash was deprecated. So that must not be how they're being done now.
Something.
Yeah.
It was a cool system.
Nice.
Let's get into it.
Let's do. We have Luke carrying all the luggage, packing up the car for their big trip to Saint Mystere. This opens up with, and very frequently is peppered with, really nice fluid animated sections. Yeah. They don't look like anything. Like they just like one of the things that I really love about the way that these are drawn is they don't look. When I say don't look like anything, I mean they specifically don't look like anime I had seen before. Just shut up. Like I know there's probably stuff that looks like this, but stuff that I'm very familiar with, or Disney. Right.
Like it reminded me of when you would see, in the 80s, like you'd watch a Don Bluth cartoon or something. Yeah. And be like, oh, there's another way to do it. It doesn't all have to look like Disney. It could look like Secrets of NIMH.
Yeah. It is like some like a weird Eastern European Little Mermaid VHS that I had that fucking terrified me. Yeah.
Like I love things that show that they're more than just like a strictly Eastern or Western style, even though I understand this was developed in Japan. Yeah. And this is in terms of origin and provenance, it is. But the way it looks like something completely new and different. Yeah. It's
a Japanese team doing what feels like a Northern European kind of animation style. Yeah. And it rules.
You go. It absolutely rules. Luke says, hey, why are we concerning ourselves with this inheritance case? Because it's a pretty good question. And Layton says this is more complicated than that. Right. Baron Augustus Reinhold passed away 2 months ago, and his will revealed the existence of something called the Golden Apple, which is an invaluable treasure he's hidden away, and whoever can find it can keep it.
Yes.
And the Baron's wife, Dahlia, sent a letter to Layton asking him to come to the village, and Layton's gentleman thing is he does anything a woman says.
Yes. Which is strange.
That is his PUA mindset. That's what they told him to do.
So she sent him a letter, and this letter contained a map that is also our first puzzle. It doesn't just say like, hey, here's the path that you need to take. It is just a map of the roads and a prompt saying, Saint Mystere is the one town on a road that doesn't lead to any other towns.
Yes. Super easy, but just, teaching you in the game's purpose is to teach you the format and the kind of the interface, for doing these. And then the narrative focus is to establish that nobody in this world acts normal. Because if somebody were like, hey, come help me with something, here's a little clue about where I live.
Yeah.
Again, grounds for fight.
Yeah. Well, okay. I guess I'm never going to show up because you're not committed to actually getting me there. Cool. Thanks.
Yeah. Fuck off.
Something that I like about the interface on this is that there is a note-taking function that has basically full undo. And at least on, I can't remember how this is on the DS. It's been a very long time since I played it there. But on the iPad, it'll bring up a little, like it'll overlay the paper over top of
the layer.
Yeah. So like on this one, it's like, okay, I can bring this down and, instead of just like memorizing, like, okay, it can't be this one, can't be this one. I'm just making notes over top of it. That works very well with the way that I think. And that ended up being something that I relied on throughout the entire game, whereas in other games, that sometimes have features like these, it is not as useful as it is here.
Yeah, it's great. The DS version works the same way.
Yeah.
With that. It's super good. As our intrepid weirdos approach the town, they see a feature on its skyline. There's this gigantic crumbling tower. It looks like where the kid lived in the beginning of Ready Player One, like just a bunch of shipping containers on top of each other.
Yeah,
like crumbling. It's a weird blight town in the middle of St. Mystere.
It's like a bunch of houses that have been kind of like stacked together here. It's like the house from What Remains of Edith Finch. But it's very strange. And if you think, oh yeah, that's where this game is going to end, it absolutely does. So
yeah. We have to do a little puzzle to get into the town. This one is about rotating a crank. So it's a visualization puzzle. I'm good at these. These are Gary's strengths.
Yep, same here. This is one of those kind of things where, like, when you're in your freshman year of high school, they'll make you take like aptitude tests to tell you what kind of job you can do, or you would be good at. And there's just a whole series of them that are basically just this, or like this flattened out shape. If you folded this into a box, what would the box look like?
Yep. Well, because when we were in high school, they really thought one of the hottest jobs, like ascendant job, was going to be crank reverser.
Yep.
Like right now, like foolishly, they didn't think it was going to be coding or anything to do with computers. It was going to be taking cranks and flipping them around to a different way. Just day in, day out.
Got to get those bridges up and down, my friend.
Yep. And there's just a whole bunch of decoy cranks they added to but that's also a thing. You go to your job and somebody's added a fucking decoy crank. This whole thing is like a simulation designed to get people to commit suicide
or homicide.
Your town.
It's one of those psychological tests where it's like, oh, the actual test is the waiting room, and they're waiting to see like who loses their patience and leaves. Yep. Like this is just it's just a tolerance test, is what it is.
Yeah, this old man who lives in the fucking underground. This guy's got to go. This is where the game begins as we enter the town.
Yes.
We get our title screen and stuff.
Yeah. The town is apparently abandoned, but as we walk in, we start running into some villagers. These are some puzzles are mandatory. You have to solve them to get whatever piece of information the person is going to give you. Oftentimes you will run into a puzzle just by talking to somebody, to see if they will advance things for you. And you can back out of those if you want to.
Yeah, or you're just hunting for puzzles. Like I always wanted to get all the puzzles. It kind of changed as I was getting, losing patience with the game. Like in the first half, I was really scouring for puzzles. And then by the time I was ready for it to be done, like 6 or 7 hours in, I was just letting the chapter roundup do it.
Yeah.
Just following the critical path. And I'll just do these all inside Grandma's weird hut and have her watch me do it. So.
Yep. I will do it to entertain her. Yeah. But you get a few kind of like different kinds of puzzles. I've made a note of these like incidental puzzles where the first of a kind of puzzle shows up. as well. We don't have to hit all these, but like if any of these stick out to you there. One that got me, that like tripped me up because I felt like I figured out, like I felt like I knew how to do it, but I kept getting the wrong answer, was counting the number of times a digital clock display will show the same number 3 times in a row.
Same.
Yeah.
What fucked me up was 10:01 through 10:09.
Yep.
Yeah. That zone. So
same.
Yeah. That one was really hard. That one got me. The weights one I think is cool. Like when they do these weights ones where you have a limited number of ways and you have to kind of like determine which side is heavier or which weight is actually off calibrated. And this section ends with us in front of the manor talking to the servant Ramon, who's going to end up being important. This guy's real fucking creepy.
Yep.
Looking in general, I was like, oh, this guy's the killer. And he gives you the 3 wolves and 3 baby chickens river crossing puzzle.
Yeah. I had, you know what? I had never run into this version of it before. The 3 wolves and the 3 baby chickens. The one that I grew up with, like
chickens and sacks of grain.
Yeah, it's the chicken, the wolf, or the chicken, the fox, and the sack of grain. Like I have a distinct memory of my dad like asking me that, like just before some kind of school activity and like walking me through it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They do a couple different variations of this one as well. So
yeah,
classic.
Yeah. And that's just about recognizing that like, oh, I can move the same thing back and forth a bunch of different times. Like I don't, you know, this move can just be to set things up for the next one.
Yep. And you can have moves where one thing goes across.
Yeah.
It doesn't always have to be 2. Inside the manor, we run into Matthew, who is kind of like a Final Fantasy 1 version of Bob Balaban. In terms of how he looks.
Yeah.
He's the butler.
he always looks panicked. I love it.
Yeah, he's really having a hard time. And he gives us our first matchstick puzzle. I get the sense that these are controversial, according to the internet. I always like these.
Yeah.
This is the kind of visualization that works for Gary.
Yeah, like this is the one with the dog that gets hit. It's like, okay, you know, here's a little matchstick figure of a dog. You know, by only moving 2 of these, can you make it so that it looks like he's been hit by a car? The trick being you don't have to show it from the same perspective. The second one, you just make it look like he was squashed flat and you're looking at him from above. I also don't mind these. Or like when it shows up, like here's the pyramid of coins. Can you invert it by only moving 2 or 3 of them?
Yes.
Stuff
I
like that
kind of thing.
Yeah. I don't know if it's just the, you know, my Cracker Barrel heritage coming through that like I've just run into these a lot. But like even when they've popped up, I know they're a big deal in Hotel Dusk. Like those are ones that trip people up in that game and its sequel. This is not a problem for me.
No, and there are ones I absolutely find annoying.
Yes,
that are my weakness. It just starts off like not just these easy versions of them. I mean, historically, if I'm moving a matchstick, I'm having a good time in this game.
Yep, I'm laughing, clapping, pointing.
Yeah. So we get to go meet the family, the Knives Out, group of malcontents, inheritance malcontents.
Yeah, the terrible adult children.
The Schitt's Creeks. We get some hints here as well. We look at the paintings and we see that the Baron had a daughter who is not in the picture anymore, whose name is Flora.
Yeah. She's the only character who has a head shaped like that. So when a mysterious woman shows up later, it is very anticlimactic. But as we step in to talk with the terrible adult children, Dahlia's fluffy little cat, Claudia, runs past us, and she is furious that we didn't stop her. And Layton is really quick to jump on the grenade about this.
Yeah. It's he's going to go get this cat. There's an element of simping to Professor Layton in his gentleman PUA mindset that he provides.
Just a fucking white knight carrying that printer up and downhill.
Yeah. He is absolutely a dog for that WAP. And it comes through. Like, he's not going to notice you, bro. These puzzles, it's not going to work.
Oh, man.
We're introduced to a kind of puzzle that I generally don't like because I don't remember enough about them, which are ones about geometry. I appreciate that these are not math problems.
Yeah.
They're always tricks. It's like, here's a couple of triangles or a circle and a triangle, and you can intuit the length of one side that you need based on the information there, even if it's not immediately obvious.
Yeah, you don't have to do the Pythagorean theorem. It's just like, okay, we know that, like, what ultimately ends up being the length of one of the radius of the circle, and because one of the sides of the triangle just goes from the center of the circle out to the end, that's what we're guessing. Like, oh, that's just the radius. It doesn't matter what angle it is. It's always going to be the same because this is a circle. Yep.
Yeah. I have a hard time with these.
Yeah. I'm
even
fine.
though I get that I get that they're not just math problems.
Yeah.
So we had to go get the cat. And when we leave the manor, one of the weirdest things about Layton is that one of the guys from Wacky Races follows him around.
Got it. It's a real Snavely Whiplash kind of guy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's got his own Dr. Wiley.
he has what's his name? A Moriarty. This guy who crash lands, he appears and he's covered in smoke, and we see him mostly in silhouette, but I'm going to get you, Layton. He's going to be around trying to screw things up for us. But this is a cutaway. He's not going to attempt to murder us for another few chapters.
Yeah. So we start chapter 2, The Fugitive Feline, about us getting this cat. There's a lot of this game that is just you going somewhere and them telling you to check somewhere else.
That's the most of the game.
Finding frustrating.
Yeah. The
Singing City did that all the time too.
Mm-hmm.
But I ended up playing them at the same time. So it was a real overload of going one place and saying, you should check in on the other side of town.
Yeah, gee, I don't know what to tell you. I haven't emptied a bowling ball's hole for years. I got to go back across town. Yeah, just a whole bunch of just chains of going and talking to folks in a row. But you're just asking around about this cat, seeing if people saw it. Some of them play coy with you. Some of them say, "I'll solve this puzzle first, and then I'll tell you if I did or did not see it." And this is how you're going to get you're going to work toward your quota pretty heavily here.
Yeah. So one of the new types we get here, so the ones that are the trick question puzzles.
Yeah.
I like these a lot.
Mm-hmm.
These are amongst my favorites.
Yeah.
So like a candle is burning, and it's like, if you light this many, how many do you have left? Do you think it's going to be a math problem? But only the ones that you did not light will remain.
Yes.
Because the other ones will burn out.
Yeah.
And they throw in a bunch of unnecessary detail, to kind of trip you up.
It just there's a person who's stabbed, there's no knife, but there's a puddle on the floor. That kind of thing. Yeah. There's a similar one where it describes this venue where a bunch of different events need to happen and says, hey, which chair of these
this
kinds?
is so weird.
This is I overthought this. And that ends up being the challenge for a lot of these, is just don't think past the solution. Right.
Yeah. This one, I think, is kind of with the optical illusion one with the hat.
Yeah.
Width and height, where it's not really a puzzle.
No.
This one is, so the solution to that one is you realize that the convocation center is going to have a lot of different events, which means deploying different numbers of chairs.
Mm-hmm.
Therefore, you'd want chairs that stack.
Yeah.
And that's not a puzzle. That's
just a question about like logistics.
Exercise.
Yeah.
Just this office administration.
Yeah.
Super strange.
Yeah. If somebody handed me this, I'd feel like they were trying to get me to do their job for them. Like, no, you fucking go through this catalog, see what you need.
My OfficeMax.com days are over.
Yeah, and the optical illusion. I regret to say that I did take a Post-it note and just mark the measurements,
figure it
and
out.
See. Yeah, because I'm not just going to do it. No, I'm not going to trust my eyes, because fuck that. It's an optical illusion.
That's the point of them.
Yeah,
there's not really a puzzle there.
No. Yeah. A little bit closer is the Sierpinski triangle formation, how many of the triangles that you need to draw in order to make this big Triforce of 36 triangles, kind of understanding that there are the ones you draw and then there are the implied triangles within.
Negative space.
Yeah.
This one is really good for the overlay.
Yes.
Like when they do things like this.
Mm-hmm.
There's a little bit like an optical illusion of whether it's an old lady or a young lady.
Yeah.
They do that by having you flop little tiles. That's fine. And then there's a route tracing one. These I generally like as well.
Mm-hmm.
in the game where you're drawing on the map.
Yeah.
To do this, the idea here is you're trying to find 4 different routes from an A to a B, where so they don't intersect.
Yes.
And since you're actually drawing on the map, there's like a pleasant tactileness to it. You immediately know when you fail.
Yeah.
It's not like you submit, a proposal.
Yeah.
It just works when it works. I generally like those.
And it's, you can iterate on it rapidly. So it's like, oh, I'm tracing these 4 routes. I'll start with the shortest one first, or the shortest apparent one, and then work it away around from there. Yeah.
When we go back to the drawbridge keeper, he says he lost the crank. So we're trapped. Everyone is trapped.
How much food do you have? Do you eat food?
Yeah. There's a cafe, but I've never seen anyone eat.
Nope.
We go to the inn to rent out our rooms. So we have our furniture game as we redecorate this hotel. And an old woman named Agnes gives us fish bones to kill Claudia the cat.
Yep. Hey,
that's not really what it is, but it does really seem like a way to kill this cat.
Yeah. So fish bones are what the cat pulls out of their throat. You don't put them into the cat.
The cat, no. You'll never run away again.
Oh man. And the puzzle that she gives you here is you got some angry pigs and you have to separate them with just 3 lines. Just a pretty basic,
pegboard.
Yeah, finding the intersection.
This is very Cracker Barrel.
Yeah.
Stretching some rubber bands between some pins with a thing drawn on them.
Yeah.
This is where we get some Chekhov's guns here at the end. We see the creepy abandoned amusement park. We see the tower. We're not going to go to those things yet because now we outside of the amusement park we have given Claudia the fish bones so we can get her back to the manor.
Yep. So we can haul her carcass back there. Where Matthew again is distraught. Somebody has murdered Simon, the pointy nephew of the Baron.
Yes.
Yeah.
And a policeman has shown up. We're introduced to our Inspector Chelmy. This angry, like Willem Dafoe, liney face looking motherfucker.
Yep. Yeah. Just 100% jowl on the sliders there, and he's a real jerk. And he immediately is trying to pin every single thing on Layton.
Yeah. This is where you run into the really funny little bits of Luke, like just getting furious on Layton's behalf, much like a Charizard would get furious on Ash's behalf.
He does turn pretty red.
Yeah, he just like he gets deployed by Layton to fight his battles.
Just picturing him flying, just with his arms out, making airplane noises.
My boy bomb. Matthew says Chelmy took the body as soon as he arrived, but a strange cog was found on the ground where he fell.
Yeah,
and we get a little item rotation puzzle here, but this cog is going to be important. This is a little clue, and it starts a subscreen of mysteries.
Yeah,
when we run to weird things in town that have kind of running plot things, these mysteries get updated. They're just it's kind of like your mind palace. It shows where your clues.
Yeah.
What clues you found so far.
It's funny because these fill up over the course of the first 8 chapters, and then they fall in cutscenes immediately, just one by one. When you get to the last, it's very good. This is where we get another kind of puzzle here. Let's call this like positioning logic. So we got this quarreling family, like A will not sit next to B, but C will not sit next to A.
D sets across from F, etc.
Yeah. You get
these bum me out. These are anti-Gary puzzles.
Yeah.
Not for me. It's weird because you'll do a similar thing to this with math, or it'll be like this person's age is this compared to this person, and I can handle those.
Yeah, you do a lot of those actually. The relative age puzzles. Like at one point I was double, but then the next year I was triple. Yeah. Those don't bother me too much. This is the bad version of that to me. Yeah.
Is positioning. So,
yeah.
Ramon is missing, the servant, and Dahlia thinks he might have been killed. And Layton says, of course we have to, he keeps saying, you're a detective, you take care of this. Oh, I'm not a detective. But these are related to the apple, so okay. I'm on the case.
You're not a detective. I'm not a detective, sir. All right, set up a perimeter, start bagging and tagging. Get me the suspects down on the line.
Yeah.
Nobody leaves.
Yeah.
Uh, so he's on the case. He's going to go looking for Matthew, or go looking for Ramon. Yes, the weird lizard-like Ramon, which involves
the reptilian.
This involves going and talking to people and following lines of clues, as it always does. Before we go, we can actually talk to Matthew, the panicked butler, about a painting that we see in a parlor. It appears to show Dahlia with Flora, the daughter with the wife. But Matthew says, no, that's not Dahlia. It's the Baron's first wife who happens to look and act just like her.
Yep. This should basically spell it out for you.
Yeah.
What's happening here? We go around asking people around, and this is where people are like, I didn't see him. Check this place across town. And you have to walk around a lot, and it sucks.
Yeah.
So we get our kind of logic grids about prisoners telling the truth. Like if there are 4 people, which one of them is lying. A says this, B says this, etc.
Yeah.
Finding which puzzles can't be drawn with a continuous line.
Yeah.
And then another trick question, which, my favorites.
Yeah. Yeah.
The line ones are cool because even if you don't actually do the work of drawing the lines, you can kind of look at them and see what is different about one.
Yeah.
And intuit. Like they don't just function as, they function as spot the different puzzles in a subtle way. Like, oh, this has an actual X.
Yeah.
Across, or this has a Y junction. And you can't really do a Y junction, in this.
Yeah. This one has an odd number of intersections versus an even number of intersections, or intersections where more than 2 meet. Right. Stuff like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I dig those.
Yeah. And the match lighting question is really good. Again, just don't think past this. It gives you a list of all of these things. He wants to light up the room, he wants to cook his food, and he wants to heat his bath. What does he need to light first? Don't think past it. He needs to light the match first.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I dig that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So Ramon's not around. He's not on the side of town that we're on. But we've solved a certain amount of puzzles. So an absolute monster man named Deke will pass the clock tower to get to the rest of the village because we've met this threshold.
Yeah. Deke is a very phallic looking man with perfectly round eyes and a perfectly round mouth of teeth.
He looks like he looks a little bit like a dick sucking blow up doll or something, but of your nightmares.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's very shocked to find himself transformed into a bachelor party doll.
Well, wouldn't you be?
Yeah. Thinner. And he just...
Oh man. But if we've passed 12, which clearly you would have, we're able to go through this little path into the clock tower here, but we do need to solve a puzzle for him before we can get to the rest of the village. I like this one as well. These like what's the next in the pattern based on these?
Yeah.
Showing what appears to be like dice pips correlated to numbers. And obviously it's not counting the numbers, but you can quickly discern, based on the fact that it's, 3, 6, 9, and then so on. It is corresponding to clock hand positions.
Yeah. I dig this too. It feels Resident Evil-y to me.
Yes.
Yeah. We continue through. We're talking to randos, getting puzzles. There's in terms of like types, this is where the relative age puzzle starts, and the sliding block puzzles.
I hate it so goddamn much.
These don't bug me. I do not mind the sliding blocks until it becomes, this could be solved in as few as 75 moves.
Yeah.
At the end. But the early versions of these I find kind of satisfying.
Yeah, I despise them. I don't care if it's 8. I don't care if it's 15. Just send it into the sun. I fucking hate it.
Yeah, nothing. This game, it finds your weakness. It's not even your weakness. It just I think it's rare the person who's just like, I just like all these shits.
Yeah,
like, yeah, bring it on.
How do I bet that everybody has a good time? Yeah.
Yeah.
And another one here, like this coin string pull puzzle. I do like this, where it's like, hey, here's a big maze of string. It's one string laid out all in a coil basically, and there are coins in here. If I pull this tight, how many will be above and how many will be below? And
you follow the maze, like what's on the right side of the string versus what's on the left side of the string.
Oh, so you follow the maze. For me, it's like I pour water into it. like in my head, like visually, like I to basically anything that is pointed up, I color in and then count any of it that is
Yeah. There's different, like those are all the things that are on the left side of the string.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It's this is one I had a moment where I was like, well, how would you know, I did this puzzle and I was like, how would you even hint for this?
Yeah.
And the first hint is there's really no hint. You just have to work it out. And then there are two more hints. I looked them up online to figure out how they would hint for this.
Yeah. It's just like, just you just do it, like this.
Yep.
And it's weird because that means that this is just a patience test. Right. But
yeah. It's just a fun one. If they had done increasingly complicated versions of these, that'd be a little bit obnoxious. I think this is the only one that exists.
Yeah. Yeah. It's the only one that I found anyway. Yeah. But we're hitting all of these on this just wild goose chase looking after Ramon. They say, oh, he's a party animal. I saw him, at this cafe. I'm like, oh, is this kind of person? We learn a couple of facts, though. We learn that, people have been disappearing. The people who disappear are usually like sick or tired for a while before it happens. And whenever it happens, there is a loud noise that emanates from the tower. And they see a strange old man carrying big old sacks around town. Yeah,
person sacks. And this is where we see the no, not yet. We still haven't seen Ramon sticking out of the person sack.
Nope.
The sad sack that he runs into. Because just learning about this is a weird chapter break.
Yep.
Because now all of a sudden it's night falls, which is another chapter out of nowhere.
Yes. So, yeah. It gets dark, and the people who are out on the streets change, and certain buildings are going to be open. But the hunt continues.
Yes. So new puzzles that we're getting that are new. One of them that I like here that is controversial is the aliens describing a compass.
I can take or leave this one, honestly.
I understand people who dislike them, but I dislike it. But I was just like, oh, that sounds like a compass. It's not a very well-designed puzzle.
The wording on it was kind of strange. Because they talked about putting a hole in the paper, which I focused on a little bit, and the compass, to me, doesn't necessarily always put a hole in the paper. And the way they described marking a distance from the point did not imply that a circle was being drawn.
It says drawing attention to the hole.
Yeah,
that they drew or something like that. And maybe I've just had that experience with compasses.
Mm-hmm.
One of the tools I used absolutely the least in life.
I always think that a compass should be called a protractor and a protractor should be called a compass. Doesn't a compass look like it protracts?
It might protract a little bit. It looks more like it does a verb.
Yep.
It also was just a stabbing implement in school.
Yeah.
People would stab. There'd be every once in a while somebody would think they were doing a tattoo, dip it into ink and stab themselves.
Yeah, or ruin their eraser. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. High school.
High school.
What else we got here? The Tetris sheet thing, the stamp division. I'm glad there weren't more of these.
Yeah.
I liked this, but this was a little bit obnoxious to me.
Yeah, this was just the right level of complexity. If it got any bigger or more complicated, then I would probably lose patience with it.
Yeah.
So there were a couple of trick ones here. So the one that I like is the germ multiplication. The mouse multiplication, saying, okay, two mice will double in this amount of time. If you have one mouse, how many mice will you have at the end of an hour or something like that? And it's no, you're just gonna have one. One mouse won't multiply.
Yeah, the mouse can't self-breed. I mean, the mouse can self-suck. We've developed the technology, but it's not going to create more mice.
Right. Yeah. The trick question that I don't like is the one about you can trace the biggest star that you that you can in the sky. Yeah. So using only the objects that are in space, intuiting that the little tree that is poking up is one that you can use as a vertex.
As a point. Yeah. That's the issue, is that the tree isn't the point in space.
Nope.
I kept trying to make this work with touching the earth or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And because I figured out the point of it, but it had to be that little tree.
Yeah.
It's very silly. The two barbers one is good.
That's classic.
I like that. Yeah. Which one of these barbers would you go to? Mm-hmm. Well, there are no other barbers in town. you go to the one with the bad hair.
Yes.
Because super good. We get to the end of this thing, this puzzle gate. We need to have 30 before he'll continue to send us on our way. He said there's a guy named Prosciutto, lives in the north of the village, and he might have some information for us.
Yeah, he saw the old man carrying somebody off in a sack, so he might be able to get more details. We get one better though. When we head up that direction, we see the old man running off with Ramon in a sack, and it's very funny because they obviously just took the asset of Ramon standing there, with his just idle face, and they just kind of like drew the bag around it on this guy's back. It's like he was a mannequin or a cardboard cutout.
He is kind of a mannequin.
Yeah.
Lots of real dolls. He has a cog. We search the ground. We find a cog here as well.
Yeah.
Go back to the manor and say like, hey, somebody's kidnapped here. And Ramon shows up and he seems fine. He has no memory. And this, adds to Chelmy's case that we're a malcontent and a liar.
Yeah. I mean, things are trying to start a panic by saying there's a kidnapper about. Obviously, he just went to the market.
So we wake up in the morning. We're going to try again. We wake up in our hotel. Chelmy sent for us.
Yeah. This is about when we start finding diary pages on the ground with very direct exposition about what's going on.
Yeah.
This page right here mentions that Lady Violet, the first wife of the Baron, has been feeling terribly ill. We're going to be getting more of these as we go.
Yeah. We get up to the manor. Chelmy is berating Matthew for serving him sweets. He hates sweets. Everyone knows it. This ends up being important later to the parlor scene.
It's a load-bearing fritter.
Yeah, he's a load-bearing fritter. Chelmy dismisses, says, you're useless on this case. So we're like, okay, well, let's not worry about the murder. Let's go get that golden apple.
Yeah. Yeah. And start asking around, looking for stuff. I like this one, finding which is the tallest part of this pile of stacked rectangles, kind of like different sheets of paper. That was fun.
Visualization puzzle.
Yeah. Yeah.
Kind of imagining how it would look at a 3/4, like how a 3D object would look at a 3/4 head perspective, overhead perspective.
Yeah. I also like the logic of cutting the ring and the tangle of rings to make a single chain. That was good. Just kind of like breaking it out into like a little node chart kind of deal.
This is our first straight up pegboard.
Yeah.
So for Cracker Barrel fanatics, this is we've gone down to Cracker Barrel Junction.
Yeah.
So
yeah, and this is just intuiting like, oh, you can make a cross of 90-degree angles in this. It just had it can be at a rotation and make it bigger.
Yeah. Talk to Matthew. He says that we're like, hey, who would know the Baron best? That's how we're going to find this apple. He says Ingrid used to work as a servant in the manor. She might know more.
Yeah.
So we go there and she talks about how the Baron's first wife is buried on manor land. So we go to desecrate.
Let's get your shovel, boy.
Yeah. Not again, sir.
I said, get the shovel, boy.
A gentleman always digs up his prey. Come, mysteries about.
Oh, day or night. Yeah. So kind of go down into this vault and we find this, very beautiful statue of Violet underground, amidst kind of this field of flowers. And Matthew, points out to us, the Baron's journal, if you're interested in this, you may want to read this. And you poke through and it talks very cryptically about the craftsmanship of what we have to assume is the statue, saying, oh, it reminds me of my sweet Violet when she was alive. Flora doesn't like the thing at all. I like this misdirect because it actually does complicate things a little bit for you. Like it is one of the briefest moments where it points away from everything being robots.
Yeah. It also is, once you realize this is robots, it's a great little moment of darkness.
Yeah.
Flora not liking the thing and running away from it is a really lived in, sad little detail.
Yeah, I'm sad.
You know?
I'm sad to say I doubt Flora will ever take to it. I can't blame her, as I've changed its memory. The truth of what's happening here is so much more tragic than any of the trappings indicate.
Yeah. Or they do the jaunty soundtrack.
Yep.
Like the goofs about, all this stuff. Like, it is actually like a really weirdly sad story that is not treated with any gravitas whatsoever.
Yep.
It's very funny.
Yeah. Oh man.
He's left everything. His diary ends with him leaving everything in Bruno's care. We don't know Bruno, and we know everyone in town.
Yeah.
And nobody knows Bruno. So that's a problem here.
Yeah. Yeah. Our only clue, the Baron left the location of this secret place with an old friend. So we need to go find this old friend out in the town.
Yeah. Some more puzzles that show up. Nothing that's breaking too much new ground.
Mm-hmm.
Here, there's a variation on the. Would you rather make $1,000 or 1 penny doubled every day for a month?
Yeah, yeah.
There's a little variation on that, but it's always whatever's not intuitive,
right?
Or it wouldn't be a question. So
yeah, otherwise, just also take lower pay that increases more frequently. Yay, yeah. Yep. So while we're out searching for this friend, we, something kind of strange happens. The sausage vendor who's been giving us some puzzles, every time we talk to him, he says, "Hey, that vase that you ordered, is here," and tries to hand it to us. But we didn't order a vase, and he calls us crazy. Obviously you were here. Something's up.
Yeah. This subplot is real strange.
Yeah.
What this vase is going to lead to. What did all the weird, similarities between this and The Sinking City.
Oh yeah.
This like framing that happens about 2/3 of the way through in both of them.
Yep.
We find this newspaper article about Chelmy. And this one, he's very nice. He loves sweet potato fritters.
Yeah.
He loves sweets, actually.
Yeah.
It's his favorite word.
Especially when they're made by his wife. This is just describing a very nice Chelmy, not the bastard that we've seen.
Yeah. Not dark Chelmy.
But the Baron's old friend is this vendor named Archibald. We can go talk to him, and he says, the Baron gave me this desk of his right before he passed away. If you want to search this, you can, and you do. You just kind of poke around at it with your stylus, and you get the kind of this hidden sheet of paper with a rectangle on it and a red X marking a spot on it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep. You can use this later. We get called back to the inn where the innkeeper says, another tenant just dozed and dashed. He trashed his room, and it sounds like our weird little Dr. Wiley.
Yeah.
Way that she describes him. Smells like cigarettes.
Yeah. The description of the smell is funny because it took me a minute to realize it wasn't just that he's just a stinky guy. It's because he crash landed and we saw him covered in smoke before. Because he did a Robotnik crash into the town. Yeah.
I just assume that he smelled like smoke because he smoked, and that's gross.
Yes.
But you're probably right.
Yeah. So we've kind of reached we have this sheet of paper, but we've reached a bit of a stopping point. So this takes us to chapter 6, the elusive tower, where we start turning our sight to this tower, which nobody that we've talked to has ever mentioned going there. And in fact, if it has ever come up, it has been people saying like, "Hey, it's real scary. Stay away from that place."
Yeah. We end up with this is an infamous puzzle. This one where you're getting a text message or you're getting a message from a girl and you're trying to figure out what the secret message is.
I hate this thing
so
much.
And the idea is just that she has like fumble fingers when she's texting.
Mm-hmm.
But they're not like offset in the same direction even.
No. So in any other puzzle, what would be extraneous information, which is the direction on the piece of chocolate, like which side of it has a bite taken out of it, like with the number, that is indicating which direction the key is off. Also, it's not a person who is texting this message to you. This is a person who normally texts. They don't usually sit down and write something at a QWERTY keyboard. And also this is typed in chocolate. So you are looking at it seeing, okay, the direction of the bite is here, which means that, if this is a T and it's pointing to the right, they actually meant to type a Y. This is way too many unintuitive leaps.
It's real stupid. And the message is text me.
They make conversation hurts that say this now.
Yeah, come on, man.
Yeah, I don't care for that one. One bit. I do like constructing the cubes with the smallest number of wires, but again, that's just spatial reasoning stuff.
Yeah, it's fine. We can't get to the base of the tower. There's a wall in the way.
Yeah.
We inspect it, and this woman with a scarf on her head comes over, who is Flora. Looks like Flora and has the same head shape.
Yep.
Says stay away from the tower.
Yeah.
I don't know why she's telling us to stay away from the tower. You'd think she'd want to be rescued, but
I don't know. She's also
not.
saying, "Hey, stay away from the tower," but she leaves a brochure for us, pointing us to where we can find the key to the tower.
Yeah, it's real mixed messaging, and I can only assume it's because of the mountains of abuse she's suffered.
I mean, if everything in this town is a puzzle and puzzles are the only way to communicate, she can't say directly what she wants.
Yeah, it's like a geese.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but we do find a brochure here. It is pointing to the amusement park. She must have left it as a clue for us. And as we leave, we get the villain cackling, saying, yes, you're walking right into my trap.
Yep. So the park gate is locked. So we need to find the caretaker, who is also the guy who works in the sewers. So there's a sewer level. And Professor Layton. You go downstairs and we meet this man named Pavel, who felt like an Easter egg from a different series of this thing that was not a transmedia property in the first place. It's like, oh, this is from the anime. This is a character from the book this is based on. No, it's just a Pavel.
It's just a guy. He's an explorer. He has a terrible sense of direction. He happens to speak in this weird pidgin of a bunch of different languages.
Yeah, he's not a robot, and he gets accounted for. Like later, like Luca's like, was he a robot? And they're like, no, I don't think so.
I didn't see him leave the tower.
Yeah, like it's super bizarre.
Yeah.
We eventually find the caretaker, who of course has to solve a puzzle with these circles that are within squares. And we have to find out how many times larger the largest square is than the smallest square.
Yeah.
So very similar to those geometry numbers.
You just have to rotate the squares to see the relative sizes. It's pretty easy. I overthought this one and started breaking out area. I mean, just I would find myself writing equations and I was like, fuck, this is for kids, Cole.
Yeah, this is
for 10-year-olds. Stop it.
Yep. No need.
Yeah. We get more pegboard puzzles down here. We also get a magic square puzzle. The first of these. I like a magic square, making all the rows and columns and diagonals add up to the same number. Those are good.
I really hate a magic square.
Oh.
It is similar to a Sudoku to me.
Oh, yeah.
Anytime I can just put numbers in a box, it just feels patience-y to me.
Yeah.
Personally. Luckily they don't do a lot of these.
No, there's only one more. And weirdly, the one in the tower is easier than this one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we make our way, we get the key, we get into the park. We find a mural of Flora, find another diary page. The older she gets, the more young Miss is catching on to the village's secret. And this amusement park, the boss ordered it to keep her happy, built to keep her happy.
Yeah. Again, just trying to make her like her cage a little bit more tragic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very BioShock Infinite.
There's a strange structure out on the lake that has been very conspicuously chained shut. It's just like an entrance to a, catacomb or whatever it is. As we go to leave, this villain cuts the Ferris wheel loose, and we get just a real slapstick sequence of Luke and Layton trying to avoid the Ferris wheel as it chases them throughout the amusement park.
Yep. I'm in a way worse game. This would have a QTE.
Yep.
And actually, I'm glad it's just a cartoon.
Yeah.
We avoid it, and it smacks open that structure. So this is another entrance to the sewers. We can get into. There is a little puzzle where we had to find intersecting lines to find an arrow in the shape. So it's all these kind of like random, almost mosaic.
Yeah.
Kind of bits, like a stained glass window, and we're coming up with the arrow that is there if you follow only certain lines. Very simple, but it tells you which way to go.
Yeah.
And we get another sliding block puzzle.
Yeah, this is the first of the ones that's the escape. You got to get this slide these around so that this ball will get to the other end.
Yeah. Yep. And we find a small, strange room down here.
Yeah, and behind a painting in this room is a key, where the body of the key appears to be identical to the tower. We don't know what it opens, but it might be the tower.
Yes. Yeah, it's the tower key. And Layton realizes that the little clue he got from the desk, the X marked rectangle, will correspond. So we're going to head to the tower, but we need to figure out who tried to murder.
Should probably get that concerned. And this is a puzzle-free chapter. This is literally just a parlor scene for a character who is not connected to anything.
Nope. Just kind of, we're taking a little break.
Yep.
We asked the innkeeper for all the recent newspapers. They've all been taken here. We head to the manor to do a parlor scene. Flora stops and says, "Hey, don't mess with the tower."
Yeah.
Again, just don't rescue me. I got Stockholm syndrome real bad.
When we get to the manor, Chelmy is there, and he is getting ready to accuse us of every crime that has happened there. He has this piece of decisive evidence, a vase that was found near Simon's body, that happens to have our fingerprints on it. He does this little flourish, like, it's you, and he throws it and smashes it against the wall. And this is one of many things that helps us deduce that the Chelmy that we're seeing is an imposter. And this is the one time this is kind of a strange diversion for them. They quiz you about the things that you've seen so far as you're doing like almost like a trial on this guy. So it turns a little bit into like a Phoenix Wright kind of deal, as it's like, wait a minute, what did we learn about this favorite foods? And then you select those, and then it advances it. Yeah,
I'm never going to turn down a parlor scene.
No.
Like it is the most satisfying thing that can happen in media, I feel like. This is a pretty small ball one. And, it turns out that, this being your supervillain, Don Paulo, did end up feeling like it would have additional weight if I knew who Don Paulo was.
Yeah.
Or Don Paulo was more directly related to things. Like he does show up with his Dr. Wily device to chase us out of the tower in pretty soon. But he doesn't seem particularly important to the main plot.
Right. He's not really connected to anything. He's not trying to get the apple. He
doesn't know about the apple. He doesn't care about the apple.
He just wants to kill you.
Yeah.
Or get you thrown in jail forever.
Yeah. It's just weird vengeance for stuff we don't understand.
Yeah.
He flees.
Yeah.
He leaves. He leaves his realistic rubber Chelmy mask. What happened to the real Chelmy, whether he was killed so this guy could take his place, what happened to Chelmy's wife, we do not know.
I think later games have the real Chelmy involved, possibly. But I do not know that for certain. But yes, he is the genius engineer, Don Paulo. And the path to the tower is clear now, taking us to chapter 9, kind of the final exam here, the tower's secret.
Yes. So we had to do 75 puzzles, as you mentioned. That's not difficult.
No.
And we go inside, and this is, as we head in, we fall through the floor. There's a little workshop with blueprints of the different villagers and their little gear keys, similar to what we've been finding when people get kidnapped, and a security monitor view of every part of town.
Yeah.
And before we can look into this too much, Bruno confronts us.
Yeah. Says,
who's the mastermind behind all this?
Hey, you're interfering with my work by poking around at all of these corners. But if you're insistent on doing this, what you're looking for is at the top of the tower.
Yeah. He says he manages the town, and Layton also parlor scenes this shit.
Yeah.
He's the truth of the village. The villagers are all robots. Bruno built and maintained them, and the whole town is a puzzle to see if somebody is worthy to have the golden apple. There.
Let's talk about worthy and golden apple there when we get to that reveal. Right now, it makes sense.
It's very good.
Yeah. So we say this, and Bruno's like, I've said too much. And then he goes away. And we head up the tower. And, as we go, we're hitting each floor. Sometimes there's just a random person there with a puzzle that we can do. There's always a mandatory puzzle to open the far door. And these are always like longer puzzles, bigger puzzles. These are the kind of the exhausting ones as we go.
Understanding that these are robots designed to test you gives this whole thing a different tenor. Like, these are not your friends.
No.
These are, horrible bots.
They're here to obstruct you. They are enemies.
Yeah. In general, I don't like this tower, and these puzzles just end up being, as we mentioned earlier, just longer without being particularly more interesting.
Yeah, so like the slide escape puzzles, there's a magic square that's weirdly easier. There's like a positioning logic with a bunch of different suits of cards and things like that. It's just what if previous puzzle, but with more with more variables. The one that really got under my skin was the subtraction problem. Where you have to make the difference of 33,333 by using only the digits 1 through 9. I looked this one up because the trial and error on it was just too much for me.
That's exactly what Magic Square puzzles and Sudokus feel like to me.
Really? Huh.
Like when you can just use 1 through 9 and you're just putting them into a place and then switching, swapping letters to test what the new result is.
I really
like that. I just solve this the same way.
Yeah, I think that maybe there's just something about the grid that makes it easier for me to think about it spatially, as opposed to when it's laid out, top and bottom, and I'm thinking about, because you end up needing to lay it out from left to right, and that makes it difficult to select your to follow the remainder, or borrowing that you need to do. At least that was the case for me. This feels like a completely different thing to the Sudoku or the Magic Square to me.
They activate the same spot in my brain, which is plug in numbers until it works.
Yeah.
There. So this did not particularly bother me. This is where like the slide escape puzzles and everything gets super odious to me.
Yeah.
And as we go, Layton just lays out all the mysteries to Luke. You idiot! I could have told you this before. I hope you weren't nervous about getting murdered because I knew what was going on.
Yep.
You're a fucking idiot to worry. The sounds are Bruno's machines reactivating people. Dahlia was built to resemble the dead wife. But the Baron couldn't bear the resemblance, so he changed her personality. And then Flora did not like her robo mom anymore.
Yeah.
Real doll mom.
So both of us can't be happy at the same time, basically.
Yep.
Terrifying. And then we get to the final puzzle here, which is another pegboard puzzle. We've got to find the total number of possible squares on this irregular pegboard, and each peg can only be used once. Thankfully, they give you multiple different, they give you a color select as you start drawing these out, so you don't end up getting visually confused.
Yeah, there's something very funny to the final puzzle of this game being a pegboard puzzle, and just like dun dun dun.
When you finish it, you can be seated for your eggs meal.
Yeah, exactly.
For your flapjacks.
You get up to the top, and there is a fake little quaint cottage here, full of luxurious things, and we're now purely in the ending mode.
Yeah.
Here of plot reveal after plot reveal.
Buckle up.
The one with the scarf shows up here. This is Flora, and Layton goes, "Of course, you're the golden apple." So the Baron, he's died, and in his will, he's like, "I would like my daughter to live in a robot tower, surrounded by test bots." No human interaction, please.
Just the wire monkey. Literally just what if a person was raised by the wire monkey?
Yep. And the idea is somebody who is good enough at doing pegboard and liquid, picture pouring puzzles can take my daughter.
Yep.
They get her.
Not, like there's next of kin. There once was, right? At some point before they were fucking replaced with replicants,
Yeah. And, so we know the Baron's only been dead for a certain amount of time. In my head, she's been raised like this from a baby.
Yeah.
I know that's not true. But it's still like you're pretty young. You got to go live in solitude in the tower surrounded by the bots.
She's been disappeared, and nobody really seems that concerned about finding her, for a reason. Although they should be concerned because the people of this town were made kind of to protect her. So if she just keeps disappearing.
Yes.
You know?
And all they can do is walk in these little circles and tell people how many matchsticks they have.
Yeah. And just,
It's really surreal.
yeah. Well, will you be a good father to this person? Like, will you make sure she gets her homework done? Okay. Okay. So at what point is this stack the tallest of these different squares? Okay. Yes.
Yeah. It's a way to make Laytons.
Yeah.
Like, this is how Laytons reproduce, because we don't know what village he got Luke from.
Mm-hmm.
But, spoiler, he ends this game with a new kid.
Yep.
You adopt the daughter. You don't take what's in the mystery box.
Nope. You take the kid.
You take the family.
You take the person.
Yeah. You now own the golden apple at the end of this. It's really weird, man.
Laytons aren't born, they're made.
It's real weird. And then the other weird thing that comes up later, we'll talk about.
Yeah.
Which is also strange. So as we're talking, Don Paulo attacks the tower with a helicopter, which he could have just done in the first place, it feels like.
Yeah.
Trying to bring us down. And Layton escapes with Flora. This is a big action cartoon.
Mm-hmm.
Luke, gets sent ahead. They get separated. He builds a little glider out of items. And then escapes, and does this like big air battle with Don Paulo in the air through a cartoon. You land in this village. You hold Flora, you protect her. She laughs, and this apple-shaped authenticator spot appears in her collar.
Was this inserted in her surgically when the Baron started putting this together?
I don't know. She's got she's got that magnetic strip that high value dollar bills have.
This is sponsored by Justin's. Yeah. No,
yes.
It's so when she laughs, she has an apple-shaped birthmark that appears near her collarbone. And Layton sees this and realizes, oh, the treasure isn't just the girl. There is a treasure. And the last requirement was, you wouldn't just need to solve the puzzles. The true riches, which is not my daughter, the true riches would go to the person who could make Flora smile. Okay.
Yeah.
So he takes everybody. He takes Luke and goes to this painting of Flora, in the manor, and pushes on the spot where the apple was, and we go into this vault that is full of gold.
And no one thought to touch the painting.
Nope.
And so the idea, so we get a recording from the Baron who's like, the village was a test. That's why you had to be good at puzzles. Once you touch this money, there'll be no reason for the village there. So it'll go dormant. And this is presented as like a sad thing. Layton tells Flora, like, the inheritance is yours. Do you want to trade the money for the lives of these horrible robots?
Yeah.
And she has grown affectionate to these horrible, cold puzzle bots that raised her. So she says, don't touch the money. And Layton's like, okay, but I'm still taking you. And she says, okay, I am Loot. Loot and Luke.
Yep.
And they head out, and now he has a daughter, so he can now breed chocobos for racing.
Yep.
Puzzle racing.
Yeah.
Like, if he gets enough puzzle children, he can make a black chocobo.
Yes. Yeah. And get Knights of the Round.
Yeah.
But so like her choice in this, like, I've grown fond of this. Oh, so are you going to stay in the village? No, I'm going to leave it. Maybe Bruno wanted to retire. Maybe he didn't want to toil in his fucking workshop for the rest of his life. As you keep
this is a brutal thing to do to Bruno. And also, what kind of lives do these puzzle bots have?
Oh, it's gonna
with nobody
to
talk to or anything.
It's gonna fall apart, and people are gonna keep on coming here and trying to get at that gold. Like, the word's gonna get out. Like, the gold is still there.
Yeah. And if it's a matter of course that you get trapped in the village when you get there, like, they always lose the crank. How many bodies has this village already claimed? Like, there's got to be, like, in Hot Fuzz.
Yeah.
There's probably a storm drain full of corpses.
Oh yeah.
Somewhere in here.
Maybe they just become their stories and the details of the possessions become the new they become the new puzzles. Like, oh yeah. These brothers who hated each other came by. They're dead.
They're trying to get to the gate. That's how they live on. And she wouldn't want to dishonor that memory.
Yeah.
Layton has no need for currency or anything to raise these multiple non-biological children.
Nope. Think of how much money, how much good you could do with that money, Flora. Like, they're not alive. They're just going to continue degrading. Bruno's going to die. They're going to while away. They're eventually going to be mechanical skeletons walking around, killing anything organic that comes in. They're going to start self-replicating. Take this money, let them just, descend. Right, let them fall dormant. Build a fucking orphanage for other people suffering puzzle trauma. Start an institute.
or this could be Layton's army.
Yeah,
like a puzzle army that he sends out to quiz his enemies.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. It just felt like there was a lot of potential for him, other than just to acquire another fucking kid,
another team.
Yeah, I wonder if there's a backstory with Layton where he was like tragically impotent. Like there was like, if I lose 2 balls, how many balls do I have? And then he had to, and this is just how he procreates and gets, he wanted kids. Him and his ex-wife wanted kids.
You're going to have to speak up, Luke. I'm 3-balling. Yeah.
Yeah. 3-balling, Luke. And then unfortunately, it didn't take.
Yeah, it didn't. I know that the later games go into like the prequel, and there's like a movie as well. I know that that Layton is not his actual name. His name isn't Herschel Layton. So maybe there is, maybe there's we got like a Jean Valjean thing going on here.
Yeah. I do not know.
Yeah.
I'm curious, but I don't want to. I need a break from these as well.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. I can see in the future, just if I'm looking for something lightweight to play on my iPad before bed, firing up like the sequel and then just doing puzzles, until I get annoyed about a third of the way through.
Yeah.
And that's Professor Layton in the Curious Village. I laughed out loud at some of the reveals because like the robot thing made itself clear, but the bleakness, the darkness of what the apple is. Yeah. Again, just a monster raised by the wire monkey.
Treating your daughter as like a prize that the cleverest puzzle person could win is real bad.
Yeah.
There's like, this is a game for children and it's cute. So I'm not serious about this, but if you were to take the mindset of this, it'd be pretty odious in terms of like intelligence testing.
Yeah.
And, but it's so small ball. It's like, the best parents are the ones who can do pegboard puzzles really well. Yeah. It's not even like, the best parents are the ones who are good at finance and can code, which is the real life gross version of it. Mm-hmm. So I don't know. It's pretty fun. Yeah. It is fun to play. It is the plot is funny. Yeah. I'm glad that these are in the retirement pile. So like in the future, when I feel like it, I can run this series and just get fun little Cracker Barrel puzzles.
Yeah. The batting average on the puzzles is actually really high, we glossed over, but like for any of the puzzles that we spoke about, just one of them, there are a couple of different iterations. Like we didn't talk about it, but there are like optional puzzles. There's a whole run of the queens. Yeah. Like I like those. It's a standard puzzle, but it's still fun to do, and the wrapper that is around this, is charming, right? And I can only imagine that they get better at that as it goes along.
That's the thing. Like I beat the second one of these, the Diabolical Box, and I played a little bit of the third one, but then that's when I fell off. And if they got better at like, it is very frustrating just being traveling in this game.
Yeah.
It doesn't take that much time, but it's pointless. Mm-hmm. If they got better at integrating the two things, I could see these really taking off.
Yeah.
And getting a lot better.
I want to put in a good word for Professor Layton versus Phoenix Wright. That is only on the 3DS, but that is actually really good. Because you swap back and forth between them, doing Professor Layton and then Professor Layton stuff and then Phoenix Wright stuff. And the information that you find interacts, like it all works toward you solving the mysteries and stuff like that. But there's something about that switching off that makes it so you can't really get tired of one thing. By the time you get annoyed, you're doing something else, which is pretty good. It has a neat like fairy tale story, and also you do not need to know anything about Phoenix Wright or Professor Layton to enjoy it. You're not going to be locked out because of continuity.
Yeah, intro point to kind of both series.
Yeah. So,
Yeah. Thank you, William.
Thank you.
We appreciate you. So if you have anything to say about Professor Layton and the Curious Village, hit us up at duckfeed.tv/contact. Also, if you have anything to say about Warhammer, Dark Omen, or State of Decay, the deadline for those is February 15th.
Yeah. If you have anything to say about March's games, the deadline for that will be March the 15th. Those games are... Oh God, Gary, I can't. My calendar hasn't opened. What are they?
Inscription.
Inscription, yes.
Alien versus Predator 2.
I picked that one, yes.
And then now I can't remember. I was hoping that you
until Dawn. There was a fourth one there.
The final.
King's Bounty. There we go. Yes.
There we go.
Inscription, Alien versus Predator 2, King's Bounty, and then King's Bounty on the Genesis specifically is what we're playing, and then Until Dawn.
Oh, yeah. Let me issue a correction. I said King's Bounty, The Return or something like that. Because I searched a King Bounty. That was a remake. We're doing the original.
Yes. Yeah. If you're listening to this and you are looking forward to the release of Elden Ring, know that the Elden Ring season of Bonfireside Chat will be starting soon. That is for patrons. So be on the lookout for more announcements about that once we play it and once we know what the season's going to look like.
Yeah. You can become that patron at patreon.com/duckfeed.tv. $5 a month gets you Bonfireside Chat. There's a bunch of old episodes. We recently did a Legend of Zelda 1 episode that's indistinguishable from a Watch Out for Fireballs episode, basically.
Yep.
So if you like this show, there's stuff there for you as well.
There is. Yeah.
And we will see you next week.
Yes.
Until next time, what can they watch out for, Cole?
Watch out for the Sons of Layton.
Yeah. The child soldiers.